Hello IOD community and welcome to another DIY tutorial. Today we're going to be walking you through how to create these gorgeous faux Delft wall tiles. Everything you need for today's project is listed in the description below. You can also get any of your IOD supplies from a local IOD stockist. Find yours using the stockist locator on the ironorchiddesigns.com website. We're going to start by grabbing our Travertine tiles, and we gave them a good cleaning. They had quite a bit of dust on them to start with. Once those are all cleaned up, go ahead and go in with a nice white chalk type paint or whatever kind of paint you usually use with paint inlays. We're going to dab this back, and that is not because we have too much paint on this, but because we didn't want those brush strokes. If you want a smoother finish, you could also try using IOD silicone paint blades. Next, we're going to work on laying out our compositions on our tiles. Today, we're going to be using the Delft Traditions Azure paint inlay. We're going to go ahead and cut apart some florals here that we liked. We also found that in traditional Delft tiles, there are often corner accents. So you'll see that we'll clip a few florals for the corners. We also really loved this adorable bird, and we're going to use this big floral as a centerpiece for one of our tiles. We're going to be completing 3 tiles today, but you can obviously make as many or as few as you like or as you need for your home decor. And here's the cute little border accents that we're going to use on the corners. We're just going to snip this down into 4 pieces. All right, next we're going to go in and paint our tiles with a second coat of paint. We're going to work one at a time because we are going to be laying the inlay into this paint. If you've never applied IOD paint inlays before, we encourage you to head over to our IOD Paint Inlay 101 tutorial on our website, and that's going to walk you through all the steps of basic application. That being said, this project is a wonderful project to start for beginners. It's very small, unintimidating, and leaves lots of room for redos if you need to. You can always just repaint over that tile and get going again. If paint inlays feel intimidating, this should make it pretty simple. You can see that Olivia had placed her inlay paint side down with the back up and just misted that with a light coating of water. That makes the inlay nice and flexible for application. And then she went in with our IOD Brayer tool to get nice contact and smoothness on that tile. And of course, when we're spraying our inlays, we like to put them on the thin mount. So now we're going to go in with those corner pieces we mentioned before, and we're just going to lay those gently over the side. You can see that Olivia already spritzed the back with that sprayer, so they're all set and ready. And then she's just going to go back in with the brayer again to just get nice contact and smoothness. We will get a little bit of an outline where the paper edge ends, but we're going to be hiding that quite nicely with some texture. You could always go in and add a little bit more paint or sand it down if you have a border that just feels like a little bit too much, but you really aren't going to see it with the distressing that we do on these tiles. Now we're going to go in and do our other designs. While we do the other designs, I can talk to you a little bit about removing your inlay. So when you remove your inlay off a chalk type paint, you can let it dry all the way, and it will be dry to the touch, and it will be just a different opacity when it's dry. So as you use them a few times, you'll be able to see it, but the most easy indication is just touching it to feel if that inlay is dry. With the chalk type paint, you can actually leave this for even probably days. We've heard of people leaving them for weeks before removing, but we just recommend till it's dry. I'm going to point out something right now. On camera, Olivia was applying that down and it wasn't quite where she wanted it, and she picked it up and moved it. You sometimes have a little bit of flexibility, but if you shift too much in the application, you could get a little bit of smudging. So just be careful that you commit when you go down, because if you do move it like Olivia just did, you could get some smudging. You can always distress that and make it work for you, but that's something to be aware of. We say the same thing with our stamps. You want to get it lined up, and then once you commit, you want to commit, because moving can cause some unintended consequences for you. And here we're going to add just a little border edge to this tile as well with some of the clippings from that same border we used before. Now you can see our tiles have dried all the way and we're in the removal process. Olivia just spritzes those with a mister, and we usually wait about 30 seconds. You can tell as you start to peel those back if they're coming up nicely. If they're really still stuck with the chalk paint, just give them a little bit more water and a little bit more time, and they should pull up nice and easy. If you're using something like a top coat, the process is going to be a little bit more different because they can bind more quickly. So you'll want to look at our 101 for how to go into a top coat and follow those instructions specifically if you do that. Now you can see here, Olivia did decide to add a little bit of paint to that border to hide it just where that paper met the edge, just to make it look a little bit more natural. She just went in there and made a little gradient and got that taken care of. Now she's removing this from our other tile. These little florals look so cute on this. And it's so satisfying to pull that inlay back. Am I right? All right, look at those designs looking so cute. Now our final design, we're pulling off with the mister here, and then we're gonna walk you through some distressing techniques to really pull this project together. And while we're waiting for Olivia to pull off those final elements on this tile, it's a good time to remind you that Delft Traditions is available in both Azure Blue and Noir Black. Now, if you're laughing at my pronunciation, I do need to tell you, I did look it up before and I did listen to it, but I'm sure I still probably got it wrong. So you can all have a little private giggle with me. We know it's hard to pronounce it, and it's actually a running joke on the inside of our company that we can't even pronounce them. So have a laugh with us as Olivia pulls up this final inlay here. And actually, as I'm watching the rest of this recording, we're throwing in a little surprise here because they actually did 4 tiles, not 3. So I stand corrected. We decided we needed one more design. So we're adding this beautiful wreath. And I'm sure this has never happened to any of you, where you start designing, you have something in mind, and you decide you need one more, or you decide maybe you don't like the design as much as you thought once applied. That's why we have 6 tiles, got plenty of flexibility to add in something new. We often find things while we're creating. So if that happens to you, just embrace it. It's all good. It's part of the creative process. So Olivia's going to finish applying that. And then, as promised, we will actually show you how to distress back these tiles and get that nice antiqued aged look with our texture stamp, our vintage texture stamp. This is such a workhorse. I can't tell you how many projects we use this in. It's one of our favorites, and it takes away all of the work and effort of having to manually distress something. So we like simple, we like easy, and we like a delightful textured look. So this is the crackle stamp, I believe. There's 4 different stamps. So depending on which stamp effect you like best, you can choose. We're using our IOD Stone Grey Decor Ink. She's getting that stamp nice and juicy, but not too juicy. And you can see we don't put this on a thin mount. We like to hand apply it. And you can see Olivia uses this little tapping technique with her fingers. This actually helps get that more distressed look. If you just applied it straight on, it will still work, but it won't look as vintagey and as authentic, because naturally that texture is distressed, and so this creates an even more distressed effect with that little crackling. And you can see Olivia is bending this in some interesting shapes to get into these areas. So that's a technique that you can use for yours. And look at how pretty these are. And she's going to go in on each of these different tiles and add this texturing effect. And she might want to clean her fingers in between, and she may be doing so off camera. We like to keep some wet wipes, baby wipes, just clean that off, because if the ink does get on your fingers and you're touching the tile, you might get it somewhere you don't like, although maybe it smudges in the perfect way. Who knows? But when you are working with ink, just being mindful of where that ink is going can be helpful to protect your project and keep it just the way you like. And we love to use our IOD ink pads to add some nice vignetting around the side. So you can see Olivia is just taking that pad and adding a little bit to the corners. You could even, we've done this on several projects and coasters, you can take it and make a full border along the edge just by running it along, depending on what kind of effect you're looking for. So that's something you can definitely use. And this is just a technique that we pull out all the time. So don't forget it. It's a really handy one for your repertoire. All right, we are just about ready to wrap up this tutorial as Olivia applies these final worn edges. There's one final step if you'd like to use these as wall decor, and that is adding a wall hanging on the back. If you look in the description below, we have linked the product that we used. It worked wonderful, and we'll show you how to apply that in just a second. It's pretty simple. It comes on just has a little plastic backing sheet to pull off to reveal the adhesive. Then make sure you line that up where the top is, make sure you look at your design before placing that so you don't hang it upside down. Make sure that's nice and centered. These were surprisingly strong adhesive, so we recommend them. They work perfectly for these tiles. And of course, if you don't want to hang them on a wall, you don't have to. These would look adorable on a coffee table or in a little staged area on top of furniture. So many different options for this. And of course, a final step that we're not showing on screen is that you can seal these with your sealer of choice. If you need recommendations, the Creative Tribe or your local stockist are a great resource, both to pick up those products and then to learn more. So go ahead and like. We would love it if you subscribe, and we really hope to see you back for more tutorials.